Hey everybody, welcome back to the Go Shout Love podcast. My name is Seth Carnell, and today we are in Piedmont, Oklahoma, meeting Miss Paisley, who is our feature kiddo for the month of January, kicking off the year in 2024. Now, Miss Paisley was described by her parents as loving, determined, and outgoing, and she lives up to every single one of those words. From the moment that we walked in the door, she was smiling at us, wanted to play with us, and was saying hi to us all throughout the time that we were there. She is nothing short of a delight, and I wish everybody would have the chance to meet her. We do our best with the video, with the podcast and pictures, and please take a look at all those things, but it doesn't really do justice to the personality of Miss Paisley. So we'll do our best to try to communicate her story through her parents, Marissa and Chris, who will guide us through everything Paisley, from her daily life to her medical journey with neonatal Marfan syndrome, which is a syndrome that doesn't come with a lot of answers. It is still being learned about and is different for every kid or every person who is diagnosed with it. So they will walk us through the medical journey of how they found out about the diagnosis, about the delivery of Paisley, and everything that has happened to them since. Before we begin, I want to remind everybody that at Go Shout Love, we are here to do amazing things for amazing families with kids on rare medical journeys. So each month, we shout love for these families through the sale of creative apparel that are inspired by the kids. And this month's Love Your People design is inspired by Paisley, who knows her people and loves them well. And so every purchase in January will go on to help with the cost of therapies for Paisley. So visit our website, goshout.love, and you can purchase a t-shirt or a hat, hoodie, plenty of other items that will go and help support Paisley and her family. Now, leading this conversation is Josh Veach, our executive director of Go Shout Love. You will hear outside noises and Paisley playing in the background. Even though it was recorded in December, it was very nice outside. A little brisk, but it was lovely. And so we sat outside and recorded this episode with Marissa and Chris, who were a great couple to talk to. And I hope you enjoy it as much as we did.
Marissa, Chris, thank you for having us at your home and introducing us to your family. And so let's start there. You have a pretty special little girl. Tell us her name and age, and then we'll get into learning a little bit more about her.
Her name is Paisley, and she'll be 2 in February, February 21st.
So we're recording this in early December, so we got a couple months to prepare for the big number 2.
Oh yeah,
coming up. And Chris, what words would you use to describe Paisley's personality?
I would say Paisley's personality is A, outgoing, B, fearless, and C, if I had to use a word to describe her, I would say, what was the other one we did use, baby?
We said loving.
Loving.
Yeah.
She loves her people. Yeah.
She knows every person in her life's name, and she says them over and over.
Yeah.
And
She woke up this morning and the first thing she said was, Daddy, Uncle Tad. So she loves her people.
So she is a people person.
Absolutely, through and through.
And we've been here only a few minutes, and she is on the move, and she shares well. She has a really cool cowgirl hat, I should say, that lights up.
Yeah.
And she was quick to share that and let us try it on, which was fun.
she's a show off.
Yeah. So right now she's swinging, and that's putting a big smile on her face. Mom, what else does she love to do?
Now that she's more mobile, she wants to walk all the time.
Yeah.
She loves to eat. Literally eats anything and everything.
Yeah, she doesn't have anything that she turns down at all.
Yeah.
So she has a great palate.
And she likes her swing, obviously. So yeah, you're on your swing.
Well, she likes to hang out with her dog too.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I mean, she's just a people person for a little, almost 2-year-old.
Yeah.
So.
And so tell me a little bit about your journey in, you guys were telling me before we started recording that you've been, we're in the Oklahoma City area, and you said you've been here around 9 years. Is that right?
9 years now. Yeah.
And so, and Paisley is your first. And so you're new into this parenting thing, and parenting is a challenge. Seth and I were just having this conversation on the drive, how difficult it is sometimes to be a good parent.
Right.
So parenting's a struggle or difficult, comes with stresses.
Yeah, of course.
And then you introduce some medical complexities, and I'm sure that
it adds even more.
It adds some more. So let's get into a little bit about Paisley's story and how, at what point you kind of learned that there might be some indicators of some other things happening.
So we didn't find out anything until she was born.
Yeah.
There was no warning prior to birth or anything like that. We had actually showed up for the last ultrasound prior to having her for her scheduled date. And they did the ultrasound, and they said that the fluid in the amniotic sac was low. And so our doctor let us know that we were going to have her that day, and to go home and pack your stuff and come back to the hospital and get ready to have a baby.
Yeah. And how far from the due date was that?
I think it was 2
We were
weeks.
38 weeks,
Yeah.
so only 2 weeks.
Yeah.
2 weeks prior.
Yeah.
So she almost made it full term, and
Yeah.
which is a great thing.
Yeah.
And so we showed up at the hospital, and they went to give Marissa the medication to start the process. And we had a family friend that was our labor and delivery nurse. And so about 20 minutes later, they came back in, and they said some stuff was going on with her heart, and that we were going to have an emergency C-section, and it was time to go.
Yeah.
So they wheeled Marissa back there, and I was pacing like a madman in the room still.
Yeah. Scary.
You know? Oh yeah. I mean, I was almost in tears at that point.
Sure.
And, just stood there and held Marissa's hand, and then they brought Paisley out via C-section, obviously, and just waiting there, listening for the cry to make sure she's breathing and everything like that. Right. So, heard a cry immediately, and you see your child for the first time, and you don't know any different. I mean, I never had a child before, so she looked completely normal to me. Right. And, they brought her over to the table, and we took pictures, and I held her and everything like that. And then they let us know that they were going to take her up to the NICU. Mm-hmm.
They said they heard a heart murmur, like, at that point.
Yeah.
But they didn't think anything else really until, like, hours later, probably. And then she was in the NICU. At a separate hospital. They took her from me, and I never met her for 2 days.
Oh, man.
And then he met her with his mom. They went to the other hospital.
Mind you, this is all during COVID. So
Yeah.
we're under COVID regulations.
Right.
They're not allowing family or friends into the hospital. And originally, when they took her to the NICU at the first hospital, they called in the pediatrician, the head pediatrician. It was, midnight at that point.
Right.
And she came in, and when she was born, her eyes were gray. They didn't have any color, and she has the cupped ears. And so there was some big concerns there. So they let us know that they were going to be transferring her. The doctor came down, gave us a bunch of medical terminology, and then left. And I actually chased the pediatrician out of the room and asked I was like, hey, what's going on?
Gotta give us some more than this to work with, yeah.
Don't break it down for me. And the original concern was that she had what's called rubella. And so that's a from my understanding, it's extremely, extremely rare, even more so than the condition that she has. So they let us know that they were going to be transferring her at that point. And thankfully, OU Children's was 5-10 minutes away from the hospital we were at. Right. And so they transferred to OU Children's, and we spent the night at the other hospital, and then I went over there the next morning with my mom, and OU Children's was extremely accommodating and understanding of the situation. Sure. And they actually allowed my mom back there, even though it was COVID protocol. Yeah. So that was the last I had heard prior to meeting her or seeing her again. So we met with the doctor, and he let us know that A, she could hear, B, she could see. So those were immediate reliefs there. Brain function seemed to be firing normally, which was an extremely, relief.
It's good news.
It was really, really good news.
Yeah.
But we still knew that there were some major concerns. So later that day, Marissa was allowed to leave the other hospital for a few hours, and I took her over there, and she met Paisley for the first time, and we met with the cardiologist at that point, who gave us some indicators that he suspected that what she had was neonatal Marfan's, which we had never heard of before.
Sure.
So we had to wait for geneticists to run their tests, and she was in the NICU for another 4 days, and then she was allowed to come home, which, thankfully, we lived close to the hospital, so we were able to kind of, go home, get some sleep, come back, spend time with her, and do all those things. So they did their testing, and the doctor called me about a week later, and the cardiologist let me know that, she has neonatal Marfan's, and that it was going to require a lot of extensive visits to the hospital. A lot
So
more trips.
it was kind of, you're a week or so in, and you're getting some clarity, and recognizing that this is a long-term journey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we stayed off of the internet.
Sure.
We didn't go.
So was that instructed of you?
No, that was
me
and
internally
Marissa.
We
decided.
kind of were like, I felt like I was really naive to it because they're like, well, we think it's this, but we don't really know. And I was like, they keep saying we don't really know.
Yeah. So
But-
I'm not going to go down a rabbit hole.
Yes.
If I don't even know that that's what it is.
Yeah,
kind of
but
mindset.
then all the doctors, when they would meet us and we'd say what she had, they'd say, I'm sorry. And we were like, okay, so this isn't good. Like something.
It had to be tempting at least to Google it, right?
Yeah.
I didn't Google anything until we got a for sure diagnosis.
Yeah.
I wasn't gonna, venture down that rabbit hole like you said.
Yeah.
So we didn't want to.
It was
We didn't
tempting,
wanna
but at the
upset
same
ourselves.
time, like you're so caught up in the craziness of a newborn that you
Yeah.
don't have time.
Yeah. There's two feel moments that I want to come back to. First, for you, Marissa, as mom, that first night to not only is she not in your room, you're not with her for that first night. She's not even in the same hospital.
Yeah.
And even though it's only 5 minutes away, for you, that probably doesn't feel like only 5 minutes away.
Yeah.
That as mom, what was that feeling like?
I think it was scary because I didn't know what was going on, and also just coming out of from being out of the C-section, and they're telling you all this information, and I was just still so out of it that I'm like, I don't even know what's going on. Like, why are we being told all this right now? And so I feel like I relearned her birth basically via Chris, because my mind just was so out of it.
Yeah.
But I would say it was just scary. You don't know what to expect, but
Yeah.
you're glad she's there, but you also don't know what is to come
Yeah.
when they take her to another hospital because they feel like theirs isn't high enough
Yep.
to be able to care for her.
Yep.
To touch on that moment, I remember from that night at that moment when they brought her in, and she was in the incubator, and she's in this glass box essentially, and they handed Marissa this piece of fabric, and they said, we want you to put this on yourself, and then we're gonna put it in the box with her so that she knows your smell. And to be sitting there and watching my wife that's her first interaction with her child, it's a moment that I will never forget.
Yep.
So it was, it just plays in my mind.
Sure. It's not easy, I'm sure, to see your wife go through that.
Oh yeah. You have all these expectations when you find out that you're going to have a
Right.
child, and then to have everything, kind of, I don't want to say torn out from underneath you, but just changed immensely.
Yeah. Very
So-
different than what you expected.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We went that day thinking, oh, okay, we're going to have a baby.
We'll be
Cool.
home soon.
And
yeah.
then it just goes up in a whirlwind of craziness.
Yeah. Yeah. The second feel moment I wanted to come back to is when the repeated sorries that you would get from doctors when the diagnosis is discussed. What did it feel like to hear that from a doctor or from a medical professional?
I mean, it sucked. It was hard because they're supposed to give you the answers and they're supposed to help you, and they also don't know a lot about neonatal Marfan's either. So everyone's learning together, and you're like, okay, so does the internet tell me what to do?
Right.
Because you guys also are like, well, it could be this, and I don't know.
Yep.
But I mean, the same thing, scary.
Yeah.
You hear those words and you kind of just rethink, like, how is her life going to be? Why are people saying sorry? Like, what are we supposed to expect out of this diagnosis?
Did you feel that in those conversations, the majority of what was being discussed focused on what she might not be able to do in the future versus recognizing who she is now and could be?
I think it was more the surgeries. Like, their big focus for her is her heart is the main problem. And so when they're telling you your daughter's going to have open heart surgery and it could be early, it could be later in life, you don't know.
Yeah.
But they definitely just make you think a little different.
Yeah. So for someone who is not familiar at all with neonatal Marfan's, and as you said, that's rare and a lot of people are still learning, and either one of you can answer it, whichever you feel is best, but and Seth will probably use this as part of our video in the beginning. If you could just say what the diagnosis is, and then how, like in layman's terms, what that means and how that affects Paisley's day-to-day life. That would kind of set it up for a listener to understand kind of what she's going through.
Yeah, you can do it.
Okay. Paisley has neonatal Marfan's, which affects the connective tissues in her heart. So essentially the valves, she had dilated valves, some of her valves were prolapsed. She has a dilation in the aortic root. So everything that kind of connects to the heart is affected by it. And it's not necessarily the heart itself, it's just the tissue that surrounds it. Mm-hmm. The other things that are affected are that she has extremely long extremities, so her fingers are elongated. She's very tall for her age. She has, she's almost double jointed, for lack of a better medical term. So she has extreme flexibility in a lot of her limbs. And then she has some scoliosis as well. Those are all things that are affected.
In her eyes.
Usually her eyes, yeah. You'll see extreme nearsightedness, so she wears glasses. But yeah, that's kind of a brief overview of what's going on.
Now that you know what it is, do you guys know if this is more genetic based? Were there tests that they could have ran earlier? Or is this something that just kind of develops in utero?
I think it's like, I looked it up recently. It's like a 75% chance that a parent has it and only 25% that it's a random thing. And they think, based off of us and talking with us, that it just randomly happened. Yeah, we didn't do genetic testing anyways. We felt like no one's done it that we know, and all their kids are fine. Like, what do we have to worry about? Mm-hmm. So we kind of just let it go and found out later.
And then even after Paisley was born, you haven't done that to know whether or not you're in the 75 or 25?
We also wanted to avoid feelings of, is this my fault?
Sure.
Yeah.
Did I do
guilt.
this? Yeah. So we decided to decline, at least for now,
Yeah.
on the genetic testing for us.
Sure.
That way we don't have
Thank
to,
you.
feel guilty either way.
Yeah.
So,
And she's a one and only, so that also was a reason we're not gonna do this
What
again.
would you gain
so,
from that? Yeah.
yeah.
exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
So you all of the things that you just outlined, Chris, are those pretty standard markers and kind of indicators for the diagnosis, or is every case kind of unique?
from what we read, the geneticist gave us, a printout of what they had known at that time, and we read through it, and essentially everything that was a indicator of neonatal Marfan's is highlighted in her. So
Yeah.
we were like, this is, it's for sure that. So
It's just like your whole body is connective tissue, so
Right.
there's a lot of things that can be.
the joints are affected.
Some children have like respiratory.
Yeah, that's another
issues.
thing.
Yeah.
She
Pulmonary.
doesn't. Yeah.
It's interesting because when I was prepping to be here, I was looking at our doc that has all of her information and her picture, and I went back because I looked at her birthday and I thought, she's too tall. Like I don't think she can't only be one right now. Because all it said was she was one, and then I was like, well, she's almost two, so that makes a little bit more sense. But then for you to say that, like, yeah, I could totally see. I could totally see that in her. Yeah.
She's technically like the height of a 2-year-old boy.
Yeah.
Is what.
Yeah.
She got her arm shot.
Yeah. So, also when we first got the diagnosis and the information from the geneticist,
There you go.
you're given the information that life expectancy for most children with her diagnosis, you're looking at 2 years at that time is what it said. And I think that was another reason that we got so many sorries from the doctors and things like that, because that was kind of the information that they knew about. And so, and now since they've switched that information actually online, and Marissa was looking at it the other day, what did it say?
It says like more. It doesn't really have an age anymore. It just says like each child is different, but with medical advances, they can be adults.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was another scary moment, was you have to prep that she might not be 2.
Right. Yeah.
But now, if you watch her, you're like,
Yeah.
there's no way.
Oh,
like,
she's thriving. Yeah.
Yeah, she is thriving.
like this is not her. It doesn't define her.
Right.
Yeah.
So when you're given that information of the expectancy of around 2, was that outdated information at that time? It just hadn't been updated, or have the medical advancements in this amount of time been just that great that they've been able to learn more and adapt rapidly?
I think that it probably just they hadn't updated the
Yeah.
information at that point.
Yep.
And so, there's, I think that in regards to life expectancy, each child is case by case.
Sure.
So what was explained to me by the doctors is that on the level of Marfan's, neonatal Marfan's is the most severe on the spectrum.
Gotcha.
And that
Like, some
within
people
that
grow.
within the neonatal Marfan spectrum, there's obviously levels of severity
Sure.
to that as well. And so I think that those kind of things indicate case by case. So that was at least how it was explained to me.
Yeah.
So
And you mentioned that with Marfan's, there's the either guarantee or strong possibility that there's going to need to be heart surgery
Yeah.
at some point. And so you guys have already had to go through that.
yeah, yeah.
And so tell us about what led up to that and timing around that and what that experience was like.
So with her, we were originally told that there was a good chance that she was going to have heart surgery before 1. But that the longer, obviously, that you can prolong that, the stronger, recovery and things like that.
And I'm just
you're
assuming
gonna
that's because of developmental progress and how healthy the child can be to recover faster. Is
absolutely.
that right?
That's what I would. That's
And
what I would guess as
medications.
well.
Sure.
I mean, she's on numerous medications, and those helped with like because her heart valves leak.
Yeah.
So the medication slows the leakage down, and
She's on heart pressure medication, and she's also on medication that I think it's just about alleviating the pressure that the valves are under. So as she's continued to grow, the medications have been upped, and it's also how her heart responds to that.
Yeah.
Fortunately, she hasn't had any adverse response to any of the uppages in medication and dosage.
Good.
So we made it to a year.
1 year and 3 months.
I had a lot of when Marissa found out originally, the cardiologist called and let her know, and my grandfather was in the hospital passing away at that time. So I hopped on a plane right after her first birthday, literally the day after, and I was headed to Arizona. And I got called from my brother when I got to the airport, letting me know that my grandfather had passed. And then Marissa calls me. I'm driving, and Marissa calls me, and she said, I know you're going through a lot right now, but I also wanted to let you know that Paisley's going to have open heart surgery. So it's like all these things are culminating at one time. Man. And so, she made it to the year mark, which is what we wanted, and that's all we could have asked from her at that time, and asked for the doctors to get her to that year mark, to give her the strongest possibility of the best recovery possible.
Yeah.
So, we scheduled the appointment to come in, have heart surgery. Fortunately, OU Children's has one of the most amazing cardiac surgeons in the country.
Yeah.
So he worked his magic on her, and she was in the hospital, including day of surgery, a total of, I think, 5 days.
Oh my goodness. That's amazing.
They told us probably 2 weeks or so. And her cardiologist, he continues to be like, I always tell you guys something, and she proves me wrong, so I'm just not going to tell you.
That's like the perfect case of under promise and over deliver.
Oh yeah,
setting the expectation of 2 weeks,
100%.
5 days.
Yeah.
That's
2
a great deal.
weeks, and then it went down to 1 week, and then they were like,
that's
oh, well, I think 5 days, and so
Yeah. Well, sounds like a great testament to both the care and quality of the surgeon and team there, but then also Paisley's toughness and resilience to fight through that, and that's awesome.
And it's inspiring. It inspires me to, when I'm having a bad day or I'm having an off day, we'll say, that I know that things could always be worse, and that if my daughter can push through what she's pushed through, I can tackle pretty much anything. So.
We always kind of make fun of her because she'll get mad about some little thing, and we're like, you had open heart surgery, you're fine.
You can handle this.
Yeah, you got it. Yeah, exactly.
We're not letting you
Stick with her for a while.
Exactly. Yeah. It'll be all right. You're going to get through it. So.
You can go without that extra thing right now.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yes, absolutely.
So if I'm doing the math right, that's around May of this year that she had surgery?
April 6th
Okay.
was her surgery.
So, yeah.
That's awesome. And so she's no issues recovering from that. She's done well with that.
Good.
So when she first came home from the hospital, when she was originally born, the cardiologist wanted to see her every 2 weeks. So we did every 2 weeks. And then he was like, I think we can stretch it to a month. And we were like, okay. And then he was like, we'll stretch it to 3 months. And we were like, this is amazing. We don't have to be at the hospital every other week to see and go. It's because it's going to be stressful, with the EKGs and, all the testing and stuff like that. So to be able to have it stretch 3 months at that point, we were like, this is amazing.
Yeah.
This is as good as it gets.
Yeah.
And then recently, they've continued to monitor her valves and continue to monitor the heart rate and things like that. And we were just told that she's now stretched to 6 months.
Oh, that's awesome.
So,
that's great news. And do you have to do any sort of monitoring at home?
No.
That's awesome.
I mean, unless there's anything that indicates with her physically that she is having an issue, that then we're free to live our lives day to day.
That is great news.
Sorry if you already asked us, so you don't know if any follow-up surgeries coming up in the next 4 or 5 years or something like that?
There will be another one. The aortic root will have to be replaced, not repaired.
Oh.
But as long as that grows as she grows and doesn't grow faster than her and gets like too large, then
So that's just a constant monitoring when they think, okay, now we can replace it.
he told us, I mean, we've never even heard, I mean, at the beginning we heard 2 years of life expectancy, and now he's like, I think she might be like no surgery till she's a teenager.
Oh, wow.
And we're like, a teenager?
Do you is it hard to hear that? Like, is there part of you that wants to just be careful with that? And because I guess I'm not asking this well. If I'm in your shoes,
No, go ahead.
I think there's an element of like, is this too good to be true? To go from an expectation or like something that could be on one end of the spectrum so terrible to try to absorb and deal with, to be like, that almost feels like too much of a relief to get news like that. Does that make sense what I'm asking?
Yeah, no, I get exactly what you're saying. I think I can answer for me personally. We just live day to day.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of how I view it, is every day is a blessing, and that I feel like at first I lived with a lot of Hi, Paisley.
Hi.
I lived with a lot of anxiety about life expectancy and how Hi, Paisley.
Hi.
And
Hi, baby.
you know, I put a lot of I kind of trying to think of how to phrase this. I feel like I kind of like lived with a lot of that in my own head and just absorbed a lot of that and dealt with it personally as far as the concern about life expectancy. And how, if worst case scenario happens, A, how am I going to deal with that? B, how am I going to take care of my wife in regards to that? Yeah. And so, and I don't know if there's a way to do that, but that was a lot of my concern. And then as she's continued to thrive, I just, like I said, I continue to just enjoy each day, and I don't put as much emphasis on it as I used to, and try not to, let it limit my joy or my happiness with her or anything like that.
Yeah.
So,
I think sometimes I just don't even think about it, especially when doctor's appointments are spread out and you just kind of forget that something's going on. And when you're around her all the time, she's just a normal kid.
Yeah.
And I think that makes it easier to not focus on the bad news that we've gotten, because she's showing us completely different than what we were told.
Yeah.
And so we just kind of, I look at that as she's doing her thing, and that's
It's
all
like
that
the
matters.
medical side of it can just take a back seat to Paisley being Paisley.
Yeah.
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 Which is, I mean, a huge blessing that we don't have to be concerned 24/7. Because when she was first came home, and you're concerned with her getting you're concerned with her getting sick. You're monitoring her eating, because another part that they let us know is that sometimes because of the accelerated height and that her weight will drop. She's not going to be able to retain weight as easily. So they constantly wanted us to monitor her eating. That was a big marker for her coming home from the NICU. So it was something that I put a lot of emphasis on when she came home, was making sure that you're just monitoring milliliters constantly. You're like, okay, how many milliliters did she drink today? All of these things. So
because she's growing more rapidly and becoming bigger than what would be.
She's always going to be low weight, but
long
they
and
don't
lean.
seem-
Long and
yeah.
lean. Yeah. It's good.
They don't seem concerned.
Yeah.
They're like, I mean, she's doing what she's doing, and she constantly eats. She just can't
That's got to be helpful.
keep it on.
I'm sure it'd be extremely stressful if you had a girl that you had to have eat and she just doesn't want to.
Yeah, they told us that maybe a GI tube would be something that she would have to have in the future,
Yeah.
but nothing seems to indicate that she eats like a Mack truck. So
Now you won't always be able to talk about your daughter like that.
exactly.
I'm just telling
Well,
you,
I mean,
you can get away with that when she's almost 2, but
like I said, I think she's going to be long and lean for life. So good on her. I'm jealous.
man, she is so active and fun and friendly. So outside of the potential that she will need another surgery on the aortic root in the future, are there any other day-to-day things of therapies and specific things that she's going through now to kind of help her continue to thrive?
She does physical therapy just to help strengthen all her muscles.
Yeah.
With the flexibility she has, everything's got to stay strong. And then she does occupational therapy. But the physical therapy has changed her like drastically. She changed in 3 weeks. 3 weeks ago, she couldn't even stand up or
my
like
goodness.
walk like that.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my word.
She did a 3
So your
week-
world has changed in less than a month.
Oh,
Yeah.
I feel like it's been like that since she's been born, though, is that it's just every month presents something new. Every month presents, she's like you said, just a regular, toddler. So you're going through learning how to talk, learning how to, crawl, learning how to do all these things. So you're growing in that aspect, but then now to, be working with the physical therapist in regards to, all the things that she's learning and getting stronger and more exploratory.
And as we were just talking about how much she loves to eat, she's trying to taste a little mold.
That's all right. A little dirt never hurts. So.
She's making it real tough to have a serious conversation.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I love it.
So,
She's always on the move.
Yeah.
yeah.
So
So
it's so cool to see. I would assume that those moments of change, noticeable and quick, have to just be like a reminder, like a constant reminder of the blessing of like all that she's achieving, considering what the starting point expectation that you guys were
Definitely.
given.
to go
Yeah.
from coming from the day that she was born and being told, that she had potentially rubella to, where we're at now, where we're walking and talking and playing and just constantly into everything.
Yeah.
It's like you said, it's an immense blessing, and we're extremely fortunate to be able to do what we're doing with her.
A lot of families that we talk to find support, but also educational resources in connecting with other people that have been on a similar type of journey or have a similar diagnosis or medical path. Have you guys been able to discover any communities like that have been helpful to you?
Yeah, I am like on a Facebook group.
Yeah.
It has its pluses and its minuses.
Yeah.
You wanna read it and you wanna know all the things, but everyone's so different too that you're kind of like, well, this doesn't affect her, so I don't know
Yeah.
what to think, or could this affect her later?
Yeah.
And so I kind of you read it for support and know that the heart is the one common denominator.
Right.
So
Right.
everyone's other journey is different, but the heart is the same, and they all have to vibe with that.
Yeah.
Welcome to All Techno and Things.
She's ready to start a dance party.
There she is.
I love it.
Well, we'll keep talking while she opens the karaoke machine.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so good. We'll start to wrap down, but I'm curious, Chris, for you, what are you most proud of in Paisley's journey?
Man. I would say just her tenacity, like her ability to overcome everything that's been presented to her and do it in a way that is beautiful and graceful and just head on, I would say. She tackles everything just head on, and she comes out on top and better than expected, and that's been what I'm most proud of. Like I said, she inspires me to be a better person, not just a better dad, but just a better overall person. I'm kinder to people. Since having her and watching her go through everything that she's been through, it makes you realize that you don't know what people are going through in their day-to-day lives, and you have to be kind to one another because you don't know.
Yeah. There's always more under the surface.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. Marissa, what about you?
I think just like her determination to keep going no matter what's thrown at her. If she falls down, she gets back up and she says, try again. And it just shows you that no matter what life hands to you, you got to keep going and keep trying to do better and be better and accept, like Chris said, you don't know what everyone's going through. And if you looked at her, a lot of people wouldn't really know that what's going on underneath her little chest. But she continues to just show us and show others and people around her that you can do whatever you put your mind to.
Yeah. One question that we often like to ask people is if you could go back to your younger self, especially right around the time of going through those scary days in the very beginning, and you could tell yourself one thing, what would you, knowing what you know now, what would you tell yourself?
That it gets better. It's hard, but not to focus on the scary and the bad, and just to kind of, that cliche, it is what it is, saying we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
And me and Chris have always, our life saying is, we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
And we continue to do it. And she continues to figure it out and show us that she's going to be better than what we were told.
I would say, you're stronger than you know, and that you're able to deal with, and take on an immense amount of weight, and that, your shoulders are broader than you think they are, and you're gonna be able to carry on as a father and take care of your daughter and take care of your wife and, tackle the day-to-day. And so you're stronger than you know would be something that I would go back and tell myself, because it's something that I constantly worried about, even when I didn't know that she had a medical condition.
Sure. Who's this?
That's Paisley.
Is that Paisley? Look at that smile. Is that you?
At Go Shout Love, we do amazing things for amazing families with kids on rare medical journeys. Each month, we shout love for families through the sale of creative apparel inspired by the kids. This month's Love Your People design is inspired by Paisley, a determined and outgoing 2-year-old from Oklahoma who knows her people and loves them well. Every purchase in January will go to help with the cost of therapies for Paisley. Visit our website at GoShout.love to support Paisley through the purchase of a t-shirt, hat, hoodie, or other items.